could be a product, it could be labor, wages, it could be a service, etc. So if it's a product, there's going to be a quantity on the x-axis and a price on the y-axis if it's a product market, or even if it's a service. There's going to be a price of the service and quantity of the service given, right? If it's a labor and wages market, then wages will be on the y-axis, like price here on the y-axis. You're going to treat wages like prices, basically. And your labor will be like your quantity. So labor will be your x-axis. Okay? So you're going to treat labor like quantity and wages like price. And that would be your labor wages market. And this is your product or services market. X-axis, y-axis, this point is 0. Any quantity going this way is increasing. So this is 1, 2, 300, 1,000, right? Any quantity this way is increasing. Price, this is 0 price. This is 1, 2, 500, 700. It's increasing this way, right? Basic axis stuff. But it's important to know and review, because when we draw these graphs, which we're going to be doing soon, it's important to keep in mind. Okay, so it used to be considered that all matters in determining price is cost of production. So before, people used to think that the only determinant of price, that you set the price based on how much the product costed you. But that's wrong. That's a wrong consideration. A price of a product is not just based on how much it costed to produce. Demand of the product actually makes a difference in price too. If demand is too high for a product, the price will be high. If demand of the product is low, if it's something out of fashion or something, the price will be very low. So not just how much it costs to produce, but the demand also makes a difference in price. So wrong. Demand of the product also determines the price. So yes, supply matters, but demand also matters in determining price. Supply is based on production, cost, demand is based on consumption, benefits received. So supply is based on productions and costs, and demand is based on consumption or benefits received. Let me write that supply is based on production cost and sellers, so those who are selling or supplying, and demand is based on consumption, benefits received, or buyers. Consumption is kind of buying, so demand is based on buyers and supply is based on sellers. So, what is a demand curve? What does it look like? Okay. Demand, a curve that shows relationship between prices, or between price and quantity demand. So demand is a curve that shows relationship between price and quantity demand of any good or services. It's an inverse curve. I'm sorry, I should write that down. An inverse curve that shows relationship between price and quantity demand of any good or services, services. Demand is based on what's your maximum willingness to pay. Also called reservation price. And it's based on benefits received. So demand is how much you are willing to pay for a product or service. What's your maximum willingness to pay? How do you decide what's your maximum willingness to pay? Well, you decide based on the benefits you're receiving from the product or the service. If the benefits is greater, if you get a lot of benefit from the product, then your maximum willingness to pay will be higher. Obviously, if you're not getting that much benefit from the product, your maximum willingness to pay or your reservation price is lower, right? You're only willing to buy something if the benefits are greater than the cost. you are only willing to buy something if your benefits are greater than your cost. Cost in this case is price paid, and benefits in this case is your reservation price. Or maximum willingness to pay. So your maximum willingness to pay will equal your benefits. Like however much benefits you think you're receiving is how much you would want to pay. And so your maximum willingness to pay, your benefit is based on your benefits. That has to be greater than the cost or the price you're paying for the product. So cost is the price paid, benefits is the reservation price or your maximum willingness to pay. You don't have to buy anything to be part of a demand. The product just should be in demand. Like if everybody wants it, like it's in high demand. Even though some people are not able to buy it or whatnot, they're still part of that, the hype or the demand. Okay. So what does a demand curve looks like? We said that it's an inverse curve. So it's a downward sloping curve. So a demand is an inverse curve that shows relationship between price and quantity demand of any goods or services. Mind you that there's a difference between quantity demand and plain simple demand. So when we're referring to demand, we're talking about the whole curve. And when we're talking about quantity demand, we're talking about specific points on the demand curve. And I'll write that down for you in a bit. But demand is an inverse curve that shows relationship between price and quantity demand. Okay. The law of demand. The law of demand. The law of demand says that all demand curves are downward sloping reflecting that as price increases, quantity demand decreases. Quantity demand decreases. And vice versa. Keeping other things constant. Keeping other things constant. This is an important aspect of the law of demand. So law of demand says that it's it's a downward sloping curve that reflects that as price increases, quantity demand decreases, that as a product becomes more expensive, less people want to buy it. Or as a product becomes cheaper or is cheap in price, more people want to buy it. This is true when other things are constant. So this law only is taking into consideration the changes in price. That an increase in price will decrease the quantity demand, and a decrease in price will increase the quantity demand, keeping other things constant. Later we're going to see that other things don't always stay constant, and then what happens is that the entire curve shifts inward or outward. But that's next step. Okay, distinction. Okay, so let me draw out a demand curve for you so we can see what it looks like. An inverse slope is demand. This is price. This is quantity. This is $120. When price is $120, 5 people are buying the product. When price is $20, 50 people are buying the product. So you see price went down, but quantity demand increased, like more people are buying it now. The inverse slope. So what quantity demand is the specific points on the demand curve. So this is quantity demand. This is quantity demand. Demand is the whole entire curve. Quantity demand are specific points on the demand curve